So what I'm going to talk about is the period of the project when we secured the land. It was huge. We'd spent months and months looking for an appropriate piece of land somewhere in or near Blacksburg that we could afford. So we finally got the land, and it was, it just felt like a revelation. It was great. We were super energized. But then, now that we had this piece of land, which we thought was pretty expensive, we had to get the ball rolling. We had to build this thing. So, we knew that the basic steps in how to get co-housing completed from these books and from talking to some professionals, but I think at the time we might have been just a little bit overconfident about how easy or hard it might be. So, but we jumped right in, and we actually at that point hired a national co-housing professional named Chris Hansen, and we asked him to kind of be our consultant and kind of lead us in the right direction, make sure that we didn't make any really stupid mistakes. And so he came to visit us here, and we had this great, 4 days with him, and he sat down with us and he reminded us that that co-housing isn't so much about the houses, it's about the people and about the relationships. And I remember he had this crystal in his pocket, and he put it in the middle of the room, in the middle of this circle of people, and he was like, the crystal is the heart of the community, and it's it's about keeping that crystal alive, and the heart of the community and all that stuff. And so he got us all jazzed up on that, and then he dropped the bomb, which was he said, look, I really recommend that you guys hire a co-housing developer to get your project designed and built. And we're like, well, that sounds great. How much is it going to cost? And he told us, and everybody in the room just about lost their lunch. It was really, we realized that half the people in the group were going to have to bow out. And these were people that we were a really strong group. We were really committed to one another and committed to the project. And so, working against professional advice, we decided that we would go ahead and DIY it. We had the book, and we figured that Chris Hansen, we could call him up from time to time, and he could give us some counsel. So we proceeded along those lines, and we decided that we were going to hire our own local professionals. And so we did. We got a great architect named Bob Rogers, who really he wasn't just doing a job. This was a really personal project for him. And so he was just with us the whole time, and this incredibly wonderful, gentle guy who completely understood the concept. So we got incredibly lucky there. We got really good engineers who also really had their heart in the project, and so we felt like we were off to a good start. And we knew that it was just going to be a lot of work, and everybody was all in the group. Everybody was contributing unbelievable quantities of time to the project at that point. But what we did need someone to kind of coordinate all of these efforts. And so we had a meeting, and somehow out of that meeting, I drew the short straw, and I ended up as what we called the project liaison. And and I, at that point, also had just become pregnant with our son, Nick. And of course, I'd never had a kid before, so I figured, what's the big deal? I can, do everything that I normally would do, pregnant, it's fine. And so I stepped into that role, and that didn't mean that I was doing all the work by any means. I was kind of just trying to be the glue to keep things going and keep a schedule and keep everybody informed and try to make sure we were on track. And so anyway, we worked with our architect. It was great. We came up with a site plan. We came up with our architect developed a really beautiful site design in conjunction with the engineers, and so we got what we thought was a great plan. And the only problem at that point, what we needed to do was we needed to get this project approved by the town of Blacksburg, by the town council. And we had conversations with them, and they said, oh, this is a great project. Like, we really think that this hits a lot of the goals that we have for future development in the Blacksburg area. And so we were like, oh, we got this. This is going to be easy. And as we went forward, we realized that even though we tried to communicate with the neighbors who were in the Westover neighborhood, we took what I now call like a rainbows and unicorns approach, which was kind of like, we love you guys. We're all going to be one happy family. Our neighborhood's going to be next to yours. Your kids can play over here. We can play over, our kids can play over there. It's going to be great. And that whole idea just crashed and burned. And we ended up with a really, really well-organized and powerful resistance from the Westover neighborhood to the project. Because we were going to be, as we are, kind of right adjacent to their beautiful neighborhood. And they had been used to looking at this gorgeous field with horses in it and, views of the mountains. And we were getting in the way of that. So they organized, and they were very effective, and they got into the newspapers. And so at one point, it got to the stage where they had written a newspaper article that had indicated that we were going to have, I believe, gas stations, a McDonald's, and a variety of other things. Oh, and they also were really worried that our teenagers were going to be loitering and in the parking lots, and that they would have delinquency in Westover neighborhood from this project. So that actually made the rezoning process a little bit more difficult than we had anticipated. So we ended up going to the town, many times over, trying to modify the project in ways that we could get the project rezoned and approved. And we knew that we could actually build a project on the land by right, but it would have been quite difficult to get the true co-housing features into the project, and we really, really wanted it to be true co-housing. So we kept fighting, and we went to the town council for rezoning. We did a whole bunch of public presentations and things like that, and the first time we went through for rezoning, we got rejected. And at this point, I believe I was about to give birth to Nick. So actually, when we first got rejected, between then and when we got approved, like a month later, is when Nick was born. So I sort of think of Nick and the project as gestating on exactly the same schedule, because after we got out of the hospital, about a week later, it was while we were in the hospital that the rezoning came through, I think. So anyway, so that was it was a tough period, but it was also a time that we really had to rally together, and I think it really did deepen our relationships and our commitment and our understanding of how much those relationships and the trust mattered. And over and above everything else, that was, I think, the value that came out of that. And we talked about that as like the period of like going through the fire, and going through that fire really did, I think, cement a lot of relationships, and certainly a commitment to, trying to really make this project a real community that would serve our kids and other people's kids way into the future. So that was our goal.